I'm Michael Bain, and welcome to Triggered, coming to you from the secret hidden bunker in the Rocky Mountains and Dragon House Studios. And today we're going to take another dive into our archives to look at a special we did a few years back on the 454 Casull. The reason I wanted to bring this show forward for you is this is the time to train for hunting season if you're going to be a handgun hunter. I'd actually gotten one of my 454 Casulls out already. So let's take a look and we'll talk about this in a minute. Today we're going to once again talk about some boomers. We're going to talk about the 454 Casull because we've got a couple of guns here I want to show you and a couple that you've seen before. Right up front to say this, 454 is a brutal cartridge to shoot. Basically, you're launching a 250 grain bullet at almost 2,000 feet per second, 1900 and something, up to a 300 grain bullet at, I believe the Buffalo bore is at 1650. So we're talking about launching a bullet at a high speed from a handgun. And you pay a price for that. And the price you pay is I believe the 454 Casull has one of the sharpest recoil waves I've ever shot in a handgun. That is, the recoil is delivered to you in a very short span of time. Whack! But nonetheless, I love the cartridge. I think it's a great cartridge. Of course, first became, I guess, announced in 1959 in Guns and Ammo magazine. By the way, Shooting Gallery just did a 60th birthday tribute to Guns and Ammo magazine. But Dick Casull had been working on it for years before, basically hotting up the 45 Colt. The 45 Colt brass just really was too thin to carry the pressures that he was looking for. So he created what amounts to a 45 Colt Magnum. You can see that very clearly here. 45 Colt cartridges, 454 Casull, they're longer. So you can't drop a 454 Casull into a 45 Colt and turn it into a hand grenade, right? But what's new is this guy. I've been waiting for about 4 months for this. I ordered it well before the end of last year. It is a Magnum Research BFR, a big fine revolver in 454 Casull. And number one, I think it's one of those beautiful revolvers I've ever seen. Number two, I think it's a perfect iteration of a single action revolver in 454. It's one of two. I'll show you the other one in just a second. Key thing about this guy is it's big and it's beefy and it has a really interesting grip frame. I mean, typically you see grip frames that you'd think of as plow handle, standard plow handle grip frame that you'd see on Ruger Blackhawks. This, by the way, is a United Sporting Goods Seville 454 Magnum. Or you had Bisley. This, of course, on a Ruger Blackhawk we're going to be talking about in a minute, but you can see the little difference in this grip frame here. Well, essentially, Magnum Research has their own style of grip frame. It's a little bit wider, a little bit longer. It's a little beefier grip frame, of course, with some sort of some sort of rubber grip on it. And it gives you a lot to hold on to. And when you're shooting a 454 Casull, you need a lot to hold on to. In fact, it's taking me a little work to get used to shooting this because it's a little hard for me to shoot it the way I want with crossed thumbs because it's a little bit bigger grip. But this thing shoots great. I mean, it is a super gun. I think, and I've said this before, BFR, and keep in mind, please, Car Arms owns Magnum Research, and Car Arms is a sponsor of mine. But I think this may be the single best value in a single action firearm ever. I mean, this is a $1,000 gun, a little bit over $1,000. And as opposed to say, and I love Bill Baker like a brother at Freedom Arms. He's a great guy. But if you want a Freedom Arms 454, what you're going to have to do is you're going to place an order, and it's going to be close to $2,000, and you're going to be waiting for a year to get it. 4-month wait on these, 3-month wait usually. But one of the things you'll see is it's a beefy gun. It has a really excellent trigger pull. You can see here, spin the cylinder, free spinning cylinder. And the trigger pull is easily as good an out-of-the-box trigger pull as I have ever seen on a single action firearm. The trigger pull is perfect, and you know how pissy I am about trigger pulls. You know that I'll in a heartbeat, I'll send this thing to Hamilton Bowen or send it to Dave Clemens and say, clean it up, clean it up. This one is just fine. Comes with a pick rail that you can take the rear sight off and put the pick rail in. It is an extremely well-designed pick rail for a powerful handgun like this. The way it sits down in the sight notch and holds tight to take care of the recoil. The pick rail that comes on the Magnum Research guns, on the BFRs, it may be the best scope rail that you can buy out of the box. So this guy is new, just started shooting it. I think you can see me go, ouch, my hand, because it is a very, very powerful round. So this is kind of the new beauty, and I wanted to show you the old beauty that looks even beauteous more beauteous. How about that? This is, of course, Ruger Blackhawk, Super Blackhawk, 5-shot, 454. The gun that nobody ever thought Ruger would make. 454 Bisley, you can see the Bisley hammer, see the Bisley grip. We've talked about this gun a little. What's different, what's changed on it is the pick rail. It's got this sight mount on it, this scope mount on it, this Picatinny rail on it. This was put on by J.D. Jones at SSK Industries. And what JD calls it is the T''SOB. It's a tough son of a bitch of a scope mount. There are four screws holding this onto the Blackhawk. I have never seen or heard of a TSOB, SSK TSOB scope mount ever coming loose. Certainly not being blown off the gun. And it can happen with the kind of recoil that a 454 can deliver to it. So I wanted to scope this gun, but I didn't want to go with any out-of-the-box. There's a couple of different out-of-the-box ways of scoping this gun. And if you want to, go ahead. I mean, Wigan probably has the sturdiest because it goes around here and goes, Jack Wigan invented one that goes all the way to here and clamps on everything. It sort of looks like bondage gear for Ruger Blackhawk. But I decided that I would rather spend the $100, $109, something like that, and send this to J.D. Jones and have him drill and tap those extra holes and fit his own tough mount on there. What's sitting on it right now is an Ultradot, one of the Ultradot sights. These sights are among the favorite for Max Prasic, who, of course, Max is going to be hosting our new handgun hunting show that you'll probably see fourth quarter of 2018, first quarter 2019, something like that, somewhere in that time frame. I'd never actually used an Ultradot, and Max said, you got to try it, because I've tried to break them. And when Max says he's tried to break a gun part, Max isn't kidding. I believe he told me that he did the test work for Ruger on the 454 Super Blackhawk. When Ruger puts them together, they send them out to very knowledgeable people and have them test the heck out of them. And I believe Max said that in the course of a 30-day period, he put something like 4,000 rounds of 454 Casull through this gun to make sure it was 100%. If I put 1,000 rounds of 454 through a gun in a 30-day period, I would have to have a hand transplant. They'd have to take this one off and replace it with another hand. Stay with us. We've got more on the 454 Casull when Trigered returns.
The revolutionary TCM from Rock Island Armory. Fire it once and you'll be hooked. The first thing you'll notice is its sonic boom and enormous muzzle flash as it hurls the exclusive Armscore 22 TCM round downrange at a blistering 2,000 feet per second with penetrating impact. It shoots surprisingly easy with light recoil. The 17-round TCM series, so fun to shoot, it's like a thrill ride, only better.
From my standpoint, these are some of the finest hunting revolvers ever made because they're single action. They're light compared to some of the others. I mean, you're going to have a couple of 3-4 pounds on these guys, but the way you're going to be carrying them is you're going to be carrying them in a chest holster. And so basically the weight is distributed across your shoulders. That works out actually pretty well. A number of different chest holsters, good grief. Chest holsters, how about that? Boom, got that. Of course, Rob Leahy, it's Simply Rugged, makes a system for setting his holsters in chest straps. And Rob, of course, is from Alaska, and they're used to big boomers in Alaska. They're really, really used to something that you need to carry to protect your butt from great big bears. So basically the chest holster becomes a really good way of carrying it. Also Diamond D, Double D, they call it an Alaska Guide. Once again, it's a company out of Alaska who've been making very chest holsters for very powerful guns for a long time, because that's where the demand comes from. Anybody who goes into the backcountry in Alaska or anywhere else, even Montana, where there are big bears, where there are grizzly bears, brown bears, of course, in Alaska, you need to have something compelling. I read recently a study on bear guns, right? Bear guns. And they noted, the study noted, that people have shot bears with everything from 22s to 9mm to 45 to 44 Magnums. It turns out if you hit them in a shot placement, you hit them in the right place, they stop. But with a 454 or any of its big brothers, you have at least an opportunity. Of course, these hunting guns, they've taken everything in Africa, all the big dangerous game. They are the first choice, I think, for hunting gun. An interesting thing with the 454 Casull is that generally it doesn't like to be downloaded. There are cartridges like, I know it sounds stupid, it's like, well, that one doesn't like to be downloaded. It doesn't. The 454 Casull, there are light cast bullet loads for it, but honestly, I steer away from them. If I want to shoot a light round in a 454 Casull, I'm going to default to this. I'm going to default to good old 45 Colt. Because as we said, a 454 Casull is essentially a 45 Colt Magnum. So if you're going to go to a lighter load and you say, I want to shoot these guns, I want to get a feel for the gun, but I don't want to be shooting something that's going to, as my friend Max says, give you carpal tunnel syndrome one shot at a time, you should go with a 45 Colt. But you also need to keep in mind that when you're shooting a 45 Colt out of a 454 Casull, it's very much the same situation if you're shooting a 44 Special out of a 44 Magnum, a 38 Special out of a 357, because what happens is there's a buildup of grime and lead just ahead of the case mouth of the shorter case. And so what you will find is sometimes you actually cannot get the full-size 454, the full-size 357 or 44 Magnum in the cylinder because it's clogged up with gunk. So basically it's a cleanliness issue. If you are going to shoot 45 Colts out of a 454 Casull, then you're going to need to make sure you keep that cylinder clean. Now, I have friends, by the way, it's amazing that I have friends in the first place, but I have a friend who has one of these bad boys. This is of course a Ruger Super Red Hawk, the double action version, and it is a Ruger Alaskan, and it is designed purely as a backup gun in dangerous game country in Alaska. And in 454, if you happen to be shooting it with, say, something like this, that's a Garrett, that's a Garrett 454 Dinosaur Killer. Shooting this gun is bracing. How about that? Bracing. A quote that I've told you before from my good friend, the late Walt Roush. First time I gave him this gun and filled up the cylinder, I said loaded 6 454 Casulls in this cylinder. He fired 3, turned around, handed the gun back to me and said, this gun would make God flinch. But another friend of mine, he bought this gun and he was telling me how much he loved shooting it, and he put all these rounds through it. And I said, good grief, are you shooting 454? And he goes, no. Good grief, you think I'm crazy? I'm not shooting 454. He goes, I treat this gun as a 45 Colt plus P. And you can certainly do that. I mean, this gun will take any 45 Colt load that you can think up because it's designed for the super high pressures of the 454 Casull. We'll be right back with more Big Boomers on Trigered. This week's Trigered is brought to you by Ammo Man, still offering $10 off any order of $150 or more with the promo code TRIGGERED. Lipsy's and their wonderful Guns of the Month. Franklin Armory, creating some of the most innovative guns in America. And our 2 newest sponsors, Volquartsen, you're going to see some really nice 22s, and Taurus. I've got some real surprises for you on the Taurus front. One hunting trip that I remember with Hank Williams Jr., who, as I've told you before, this is a gun that Hank Jr. gave me years and years and years back when we were working together on his book. He was using a Ruger Super Blackhawk in .45 Colt with very hot 454 level loads out of that .45 Colt, which I'm not recommending. Don't do that. At the time, there weren't these guns. You know, you couldn't lay your hands on a Freedom Arms 454. You didn't have any other options. And I saw Hank Jr. fire one shot on a really huge moose in Montana, and it was basically DRT, dead right there. It fell down where it stood, absolutely hammered into the ground by those lead bullets. So anyway, that's just a quick look of what we've got here in the Secret Hidden Bunker. It's only taken a couple of years, but my wrists have healed up. The reason I showed you this guy, it's a Taurus Raging Hunter and .44 Magnum, and you know how much I like it, is his big brother is on the way, and that of course is a .454 Casull. We're planning for a major expedition into Texas for some handgun hunting in October, so you're going to want to watch Trigered for that. I'm Michael Bain. This is Trigered. You can find us on michaelbain.tv and YouTube. We'll see you next week.